And this is actually a very important one. Tying and untying knots, like a tie I'm going to get into. Remind me at the end of the class to talk about it. We know the same way we're not allowed to tie, light fire, extinguish fire, right? The same way we're not allowed to tie permanent knots on Shabbat and untie permanent knots. That's one of the 39 things that's forbidden. So it says here, I envy this rabbi. He wrote over 20 books and he's Persian, Rabbi Zokai. Rabbi Zakai, he says, Kol kesher shepamim u'minmach alav u'meter le'olam. Let's say, Jason, there's a certain type of knot. Sometimes, if you're absent-minded, it becomes permanent. Gushmidi. Even when you tied the tie, your intention wasn't that it should be permanent. To review, did you watch my last class on this?
I'm not sure.
Just to review, from Torah law, if your tie is permanent and professional, you desecrated Shabbat. If it's only one of those two, it's rabbinically forbidden. If it's none of the above, it's permitted. So therefore, Rabbanan say, even if it's not a professional knot, but it's permanent, you shouldn't tie it on Shabbat. Even if it's not permanent, but it's just professional, it's also rabbinically forbidden, right? So this is important for you guys to know. Now, it says, this is the thing. We remember last time I was telling you how we should always be on the side of, to review with our Mesilat Yesharim. Let's say there's a magazine or a website that potentially will have nudity in it or inappropriate things. You shouldn't open that website. That's what my Rebbe said. If you realize that spiritual sin destroys your soul and is like a poison, if something has a 1% chance that's poison, are you going to take it? Are you going to play Russian roulette? No. Guys, I want to tell you something. He said teshuva, 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 but a lot of times once you get in the mud, it's not so easy to get out.
Yeah.
Same thing here. On Shabbat, a tie that potentially sometimes, if you're absent-minded, is going to become permanent, you shouldn't tie it on Shabbat. Gushmidi Jason. So, but if it's like a shoe, only lazy bum people keep their shoes, dress shoes, Shabbat shoes, permanently tied. The normalcy is that you untie it. Normal, like a normal human being, you untie it and tie it and take it off. So therefore, that's fine. And as long as you know for sure that your normalcy is to untie it after Shabbat ends, then that's fine. You're allowed to tie it, right? So anything similar to that. Oh, this is good for you because you were asking me about the sisit. It says, Kol kesher sha'asur likshor ota b'Shabbat, asur gam lahadiko. This is a very important halacha, gentlemen. Regularly, it's a mitzvah. Every morning when you put on your sisit katan or sisit gadol, you should check it and tighten the knot, not like this, right? But on Shabbat, any knot that it's forbidden to, oh my God, it never dawned upon me. You know what the most classical example of a professional knot is? Like the knot of Sisi.
Yeah.
Because it's forever.
Yeah.
And it's what?
What makes it professional?
Because most people don't know how to do it. You have to learn how to do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right? So it says any knot that on Shabbat is forbidden to make it a permanent knot, it's also forbidden to tighten it. So every day of the week, it's good to make your sisits make sure that they're not unraveling, and give them chizuk, But on Shabbat, since it's forbidden to tie them, by that same token, it's forbidden to tighten them. And I've seen it all the time. People don't know this halacha, they do it. Yes, sir.
The talit at the kenisa, you can't tighten it if it's loose.
On Shabbat, no. Any talit.
Just let it be.
Yeah, just let it be. Parenthetically, this is something also I try to tell people. There's 3 things that you always need to have your own, because it's in the Torah says lecha, make it for yourself. Lahaya lachem. Sisid is better for it to be owned by yourself.
But then carrying it is a problem.
So you could wear it or keep it in the synagogue.
That's what I use, but summer it's hard. I
Or no, or you could keep it here in the closet. That's what everybody does.
I think that's what I'm gonna start doing.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
Or see, the thing is, like lulav and etrog, right? These are things that, since the Torah says lachem, you should own yourself. Understand? When you borrow it from the shul, first of all, a lot of times the nuts are not so kosher. Actually, there's an amazing group of people that always try to make sure that they're kosher, but it's just, so it says, so that's why sisid, we don't tighten it on Shabbat. Next halacha, mutar l'kshor kesher v'anival gabav al menat להתקיים וטוב להחמיר שלא לקשור באופן זה, אלא כשעומד להתירו בתוך 7 ימים. How about making a knot? Okay, first of all, you have to understand, a bow tie, that if you pull it, it opens, is not considered a knot. You know that? So that's why this tie knot, most opinions hold. Like me, when I make my 99% of the time when I make my knot on Shabbat, my ties, I leave it be. I just hang them up. I don't have the...
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Because then every time you want to open a thing...
Yeah.
So it's a machlokas in the poskim. If you want to be extra machmir and be on the safe side, I forgot, it's a machlokas of Moshe and Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. But for sure, this is the halacha. Let me tell you, if your tie, your necktie, you're like regular people. You always open it and you always, after you unravel it, after you're finished wearing it. So then on Shabbat you're even allowed to tie it, right? Because it's not
permanent.
It's not permanent, and also it's not necessarily professional, and also some hold it's like a bow tie, because if you pull this thing enough, it like unravels. So now this is an interesting question though. How about making a permanent knot, or like a deadbolt knot on top of, and then putting a bow tie on it? So he says this is a machlokes, but he says it's better not to do such a thing, unless for sure you know both of these ties. Because remember I told you last week, there's a machlokes when you have two. Some people hold a double deadbolt knot is like professional, right? And that has more of a tendency of being what? Permanent. So bottom line is, if you want to make, like your shoes, you want to make a dead knot because you're very annoyed that they all use travel, and you want to make a bow tie on top of it, just make sure that you open it before the next Shabbat. It doesn't last more than 7 days. Because what's the definition of permanent, Matthew? More than 7 days. Okay? And it says, but he says, how about this? Aval aniva belushum kishur. But let's say you just make a bow tie knot, and there's no permanent knots in it. He says here, I didn't know this. He says that it's permitted even if you want to keep it forever. So that's why some people hold, I believe Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky holds, that since these ties, it's kind of like more of a bow tie. If you pull this enough, it's going to automatically what? Open. It's not like a deadbolt that you need to you understand? It's like more of a bow tie. So some people hold that even if you're like me, that you once you tie it, you don't open it, and the first time you bought the tie was on Shabbat that you tied it, it's okay, because it doesn't fall under the category of a knot.
But that's permanent.
A bow tie, but it's not a knot.
You
understand?
Yeah.
It doesn't come under this whole umbrella.
I see.
לפעמים שמגיע, right? A kesher by thing is something that's that you go, you wrap it around. But a bow tie, so some people are machmer, but neckties actually is more is a nogea thing. It says, let's talk about shoes. Let's say shoes, you put a deadbolt tie, a deadlock, knot, and then you put a thing on top of it. And by accident, this happens actually a lot to me, used to happen. Your muzzle becomes too dead. It becomes too, the second knot becomes a double knot instead of becoming a bow tie knot, right? He says, Rav Ovadia clearly says that you don't need to worry. And the Yaskel Avdi, he was a great, great Sephardic rabbi in Jerusalem. Ovadia, his name was Ovadia also. Ovadia Hodaya says that if you were trying to make a bow tie on your, after a regular knot, after trying your shulna, he says, and by mistake, 2 knots happen, it's not a problem. You're allowed to open it on Friday night. And it says, let's say it's so annoying, it became so tight that you can't even take your shoes off your feet. Okay, go bring a knife or a scissors and take off the knife. That's not a problem to cut it off because you're throwing it away. He says you shouldn't do it.
On Shabbat even you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not, you're not
sometimes. No, I'm serious. It happens sometimes. I've seen it happen. The thing is so finite and thin.
But isn't scissor?
He says you shouldn't do this in front of a non-religious, like a person that doesn't know Allah, because then he's gonna think, oh, ripping is like scissor. But he says in private, you learn.
Scissor isn't mukse?
No, it's lesorach gufo v'mekomo. It's mukse if you're using it. Well, it depends what type of scissor it is. If it's a food, if it's to cut like food down, like greens
and
yeah, that's for sure not muksa.
Yeah.
But even a knife, I mean. Yeah. If when we get to the laws of muksa, I'm gonna have to do a lot of research. That's very difficult. So, anyways, just 2 more halachas and we're done. Hamitchabed b'Shabbat b'Gilat Sefer Torah. Okay, fine. That's for the Ashkenazim. דברי הלבשה חדשים הקשרים יחד כגון גרביים וכפפות יפידם זה מזה מבעוד יום ואם שכח להפידם מבעוד יום לא יתיר כל קשר אבל מותר לנתק את החוט. Let's say sometimes you have fancy like clothing and sometimes like it's like you buy it as a group. So let's say it's tied different, like the trousers or like a woman's set of clothing, like the skirt and the shirt and stuff are tied in a permanent knot. So he says it's better not to open that on Shabbat, because maybe it was when they made it was more than 7 days. You should do it before Shabbat. But he says that if it's just like a plastic thing connecting these different things, have you seen those plastic things that are like the price tag?
Yeah.
That's okay to take off on Shabbat. Because that's not like a knot, right? So if it was like a knot, it's better to take it off before Shabbat. He said, he says, so if it's a knot, you shouldn't take it off on Shabbat. He says, for sure, you have to understand, we Sephardic, we believe very much that something that's a destructive act that has no benefit to you is mutar on Shabbat. That's like we're not, Baruch Hashem shelo asanu Ashkenazi. Like Ashkenazim, they say, oh, you're coming and you want to open a bag of chips or a bag of cookies, be careful not to open it in a way that you cut off like the name of the brand, like Lay's. Rav Ovadia says, Rav Chaim Filaji, already the biggest rabbi in Turkey.
Baruch Hashem, that's not our minhag.
He said, no, it's not only our minhag, it's our halacha. That it says, first of all, that's not a racing. That's how you're trying to open the bag to eat.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. Same thing here. Derech kilkul mutar להוציא את השיחות שהגענו לכתוב בבית החרושת כדי לשמור את הקלופים על הכתונת. Same thing, like if you have certain, when you buy a brand new shirt, it has these neat pins in it to keep it creased. That's okay to take out on Shabbat. Right? בגדים העושים מחוטי סינתטיים מותר לבשם ושתם אפילו בשעת ההלבשה נראה שיוצאים מכן ניצוצות. Oh wow, I was just learning the tshuva on this in Yechavedat. He says parenthetically, I don't know why he brings this halacha here, but it's interesting. Next week, Bezat Hashem should help us. We're going to do ripping, which I just talked about, like ripping and sewing. But he says interesting halacha. He says, let's say you have synthetic clothes. Have you ever seen sometimes sparks like in the dark, electric?
Yeah.
He says that's not considered
Really?
any problem because it's not. Those sparks are not fire really. It's just static. Anyways, it's the Rabbanan and your kavanah is not to do anything.
Right.
It's not a problem. Hashem should help us to keep
Amen.
Shabbat.
Amen.
Shabbat makes us holy and it makes us great.